Hi all, my name is Kennedy, my pronouns are she, her, and we are going to be learning about arpeggios. What's an arpeggio? Arpeggios are individual notes of a chord played one after another. Kind of like we talked about in our last video, arpeggios are really important for our instrument because just like our root notes, they help us work with the other instruments in the band, where maybe our guitarist is playing a C and we don't just want to go the whole time, because we really want to get the most out of our instrument. We want to learn how to play it, and though playing a C is awesome, I want you to have resources for other things to do to help you grow as a musician and an artist. Now, arpeggios, again, like some of the stuff we've learned before, can seem overwhelming at first. I've been playing bass for 12 years, and sometimes they even become overwhelming to me. But just remind yourself that you're a total rock star and you can totally do it. And we're in it together. We're gonna break this down, you and me and you. They are the individual notes of a chord broken down. Like we discussed in the last video, it's very rare for bassists to play chords just because our instrument is loud and it's low and it just is overwhelming, it's muddy. So it can be done, but rarely. We're usually playing single notes at a time, or as we learned in our last video, root notes. There are lots of different arpeggios. We are gonna work on one, maybe two specifically. For C major, I believe there's 8, 7, something like that. All these different arpeggios that you can play all up and down the fretboard. So the one we're gonna work on today is this particular one. We're gonna use our knowledge from the last 2 videos to put this together as a team. Like we discussed in our tab video, our numbers represent which fret we are on, right? And the line it's on is what string it's on our bass. So the first part of this C major arpeggio is on the 8th fret on the E string. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on our E string. The next note is on our 7th fret, A string. The next note is on our 10th fret, A string. Then we're gonna move up a string, staying on the same fret, right? Because we have our 10, but we're gonna move up a string to D. Then once again, staying on the same fret, but back to our A string. Then back down to our 7th fret on the A string. Then back to the E string on our 8th fret. So when you put all of this together, it should sound like this. Like a scale if you've ever worked with scales before. And though this is similar to a scale, they aren't the same thing. We won't get into that today, but that is an arpeggio for you. So like I mentioned before, there are lots of different ways to play arpeggios. Like we have this way here, which is our 8, 7, 10, 10, 10, 7, 8. We can play the same thing, but on different frets. Did you hear it? So that's just another example of an arpeggio played on a different part of the bass on different frets, but still the same thing, different options. Some people are more comfortable playing down the neck, some are more comfortable playing up the neck. That's your choice as an artist to decide what you like the sound of, what you're comfortable with, or maybe what's the next note in the song. maybe you have to be on the first fret. So maybe it doesn't make sense for you to be all the way down here. Maybe it makes sense for you to be up here so that you can reach these frets quicker. Again, that's up to you as a musician to decide what you're comfortable with and what you think is the best decision for you and your song. Once again, that arpeggio, our C major arpeggio, is 8th fret E string, 7th fret A string, 10th fret A string, 10th fret D string, 10th fret A string, 7th fret A string, 8th fret E string. As we discussed before, these are really important for our instrument because it helps us put together a full sounding song. Playing the root notes are super important, like we discussed in the last video, but once you master that, you want to grow as a bass player, as a musician, as an artist. You want to challenge yourself to create these more complex sounding songs, these more complex sounding bass lines. And arpeggios are a great tool to help facilitate that, to help you understand what sounds good with what. This would go along with your guitarist playing a C note. This would help you create something that would be more challenging for yourself, but also would add more to your song. Again, make it sound fuller, more complex. There are lots of different arpeggios. That was just an example of one. I hope you learned from it. I hope that you can use it in your future endeavors as a musician, as an artist, when you go on to write music. I encourage you to look up more arpeggios. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Bye, y'all. Rock on.